Crumb and Citrus City will always be synopsis to together at the end of the day. As much as like they've outgrown like Citrus City at such a big pace, it's always will be like I don't get mad when people are like, "Oh, like you're like the Crumb label." I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, like they're a big part of like of a lot of things." Or when people go up to them and they're like, "Citrus City," and it's just like, "Oh, cool," like
When was the oh shit moment, like this is gonna blow up with Crumb?
It was honestly on the first tour, on the Crumb and Lance Banks tour, that it was like maybe the first few days. It was probably like day 4 into tour, and we had already did New York, DC, we did Virginia, um, and then North Carolina, and then we went to South Carolina. It was in South Carolina on maybe like day 5, and they played a house show, and this is Crumb's first tour, and this is Lance Bang's probably like 6th tour, because they're like in the DIY scene on the East Coast. They're like viewed as like legends just because they would tour all the time, play like from like a basement to like they'll play it all, like a brothel, anything. They'll
They don't
play
care.
anywhere.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, and so they grew their own like reputation, and they're big in Charleston. But it was Crumb's first time in Charleston, and just hearing like they had to like cap the house to like maybe like 800, like not 800 to 80 kids, but then more kids ended up sneaking in, that apparently it was like 150 kids squeezed in this like house. And when all these kids were like singing their songs, like Crumb songs, and it was just like, whoa, this is like their first time playing here. And then a few days they like get on Pitchfork for like the Locket EP,
Yeah,
and then like they're picking up press, and more like people are coming out to these shows and like singing along to these songs. And so that was kind of just like, whoa, this is not just your average DIY band, you know what I mean? Like there's something like building here. And it wasn't until like then, when after that they got asked to like open up for Alex G on like their
hmm
fall tour, and people coming up and being like, I only came to the show to see like you guys and like etc. So, and just like the videos going viral, I guess it was like around that time when I just felt like this is gonna blow into something like crazy. And it's just each time it's like I'm just like, well, like this is so cool that it's happening, but like so weird because it literally wasn't like, it was like 3 years ago that they did the DIY tour, so it's been insanely quick for it to grow to like the way it is now.
When how did you end up meeting them?
I just sent them an email. I just listened to the first EP. It came out. It was already out for like a few weeks, and I had listened to it on Bandcamp. And at first, I didn't even think about putting them out on tape. I was just like, "Hey, do you guys have like pins or like a CD or a shirt, anything I can buy? Like this EP is really cool, like." And they were like, "Hey, we're still necessarily like new band, like." We've only played like a few shows. Like they really didn't think that far in advance of like we should make merch, or like we're gonna tour and this and that. And I was like, oh dang, that's crazy. I was like, that this EP is insane. It doesn't sound like y'all are like our new band, and just we just kind of kept in. I just kept asking questions, and they kept answering, because I was like, what do you guys do? Like, what do you like? Until when I was like, hey, I mean, if you want cassette tapes, I could like, this is how I do it. I just make them. If we make 100, I give you 50. I keep the other 50, and you can sell them, eat them, do whatever you want with your 50 like cassettes. But it's like, do what you want with them. And
Yeah. So you were
they were
there,
like,
you were kind of like, I guess, guiding them.
yeah. I mean, and for lack of a better word, yeah. I mean, super early on in terms of like from outside their like close personal friend group.
Right.
Definitely one of the first early like collaborators. Um,
How many
and
bands did you have under your belt at that point?
um, well, for Citrus City, it was like, cause like at that time I still wasn't like oh, I'm gonna do the booking thing like serious under Underground Orchard. It was still kind of like, oh, like I happen to book tours too because I book a lot of shows in Richmond. Like if you want to book a tour, like, so it was still mostly like the folks that I had was releasing at the time. And with booking the tours, it still was like, if I would get really excited, I'll be like, hey, if you want, like, do you want a tour? Like, I'll book you a tour. Like, and I would, it was, I, at that point, I never was like, oh, I'm going to be an agent or like, oh, like some monetary compensation. It was just like out of the
Yeah,
fear
you're
of
just
like,
you like the band and you wanted to help them out, you know?
yeah, it was just like, hey, let's tour and like I'll drive you guys and like our tour manager. Like I didn't even like even look at this like I'll be your tour manager. I was just like, hey, like I'll drive y'all. Don't worry. Like if you think of like this and this and this, like I'll book it. I'll drive. Don't worry. So yeah, we met. We did the first tape and it went well. And then they were like, yeah, like we're gonna do the second tape. And around that time, they're like, hey, so can you book us a tour? And so I had booked them a tour and with like them and Lance Bangs because I was like, well, if it's gonna be their first tour, it would make it a lot easier having it be like a co-headline tour with a band that has already toured so much that it's like not only will at the time I was like, oh, Crumb is still bubbling. A lot of folks in these places might not know them. Let's put y'all with a band in these markets that a lot of people already know.
And you're
But
gonna
it
get
was
some,
so
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but it was so funny where it was just like pretty much equal or maybe sometimes more. Some folks would come out for Crumb, vice versa for Lance Bangs, but a lot of the times it was like the same where it's just like, oh wow, a lot of people came here for Crumb. Like I was like whoa, that's where I was just like, yeah, a lot of people like this band is gonna do something special
Yeah.
because a lot of